Elements indeed.
What are the elements of?
Well, if you ask Reddit, a very horrible thing I'm not going to say, but Gambit, in this case, I would expect to see a Lissandra ban because it's really been the champion that, there we go, that Elements has been shining on because they've been able to make aggressive plays in the early game. With it, Froggen on Lissandra and then Rengar being locked in by Shook. That combination together has actually started a lot of things, and it seems like Elements as a team, they need some sort of hard engage on their side where they can actually set up some ganks with Shook to really get rolling in the early game. Otherwise, it just becomes this farm game where they're waiting for as long as possible before the laning phase breaks, and that buys a lot of time for the other team there to find out, okay, what are we going to do in the mid game here? How are we going to punish Elements for just sitting back and farming?
Yeah, Gambit are going to have to take a very proactive approach. They do have potentially strong early game if they're able
3
to
top
build a comp
laners.
for it. Yeah, really,
Okay.
really interesting that they focus so hard on Wicked.
Well, the thing is, Wicked, again, Wicked has always been a guy where we said, how big is his champion pool? What can he play at a top level? And we have seen before that people have banned him out and managed actually to make it work. In this case, Lulu can be his go-to pick. He's played it a few times. He played it last year as well. We've also seen his Rumble against SK Gaming. So there's still a few picks left for Wicked in this top lane.
Yeah, Rumble is one of them. They figure if they want to take that now. The Ahri was locked in immediately for Nick, and I think it actually was pretty smart of Elements not to ban the Zed. They've been banning it a lot, but you don't necessarily need to against Gambit because Nick hasn't been particularly scary on that champion.
Yeah.
Nidalee does make it through the ban phase, however, and Gambit is certainly thinking about that one. Don't have to take it quite now because of the jungle pickup, although, you know, we could potentially see it picked up in the mid or something like that, so maybe they do want to.
Well, the thing is, if you take it now, it's just because you want to see more picks from Elements and then try and counterpick later on with your last 2 picks over here on the side of Gambit. And if there's not really any contested picks left to go for. But Elements saying, we don't care about Nidalee, we don't care about her early game power. Instead, we want to have this fantastic synergy between a Rumble and a Jarvan, where you have the Cataclysm from Jarvan to lock in targets and then the ulti coming down from Wicked. So they're looking at all these bans from Gambit saying we need to get a Rumble or at least a pick for Wicked early. And obviously Jarvan was open as well to synergize really well between the two.
And on Gambit's side, they lock in not only Pinoy's Kalista, and he had a pretty solid game on that one yesterday, but also the Morgana, which you would think at first glance may be going to Eddie, but Cabochard played it yesterday, 7-1-3.
Fantastic performance.
Really, really good performance on that AP top.
Really, really good performance, and actually into Rumble here.
And he went full damage too, no cooldown. So it was like complete nuke.
Full damage, nuke Morgana top lane, and if you get this one-on-one lane, all you do is you just push the wave 24/7 with your pool, and then you chip away at this tower as much as possible, which then opens up for Gambit later on to go and take a very low tower for the global gold and try and snowball it that way. H2K managed to do that yesterday against Elements, where they got every single outer turret, fairly low, and they just waited for Yarnan to move from the bottom lane to mid lane to top lane and take them down, get a big goal lead in the mid game, and Elements had no response.
No Elements
8 games,
this time, yeah.
8 times Graves.
They go for the Graves for Reckless once again. His champion pool has consisted of exactly that this spring split. The Lulu lock-in, this time it won't be Wicked playing that one. He did play it yesterday, not really to great effect, and Gambit has a chance to do something here to lock in. We still have the Morgana as a potential support, but it is that flexible pick. And Gambit are going to take their time about what they want to pick in last. You see...
So,
yes.
Elements on their side again. Lulu is still somewhat of a flex pick. He can go to Froggen in the mid lane. He's played it a lot in the past. Otherwise, he can go for Nif, and you have a very strong early lane between the Graves and the Lulu. And also, if you're in a lane swap, which we often see with the Rumble pickups, then you can actually fast push your lane really easily.
And this is the power pickup here for Gambit Gaming. Not only do they get that Nidalee for Diamond, but Eddie gets a chance to be the Thresh Prince again. And ooh! Whoa! The Anivia for Froggen! And we're going back in time.
Oh yeah! This is such a strong AoE composition from Elements in these team fights. The Wombo combo they can do between a Cataclysm and then being stuck as well in with the Anivia ulti, followed by Rumble ulti, the Graves come in. There's so much damage on the side of Elements here. We're just going to have to see how they're going to play the early game, because it's going to be the Morgana top lane. And what you typically want to do against that, in this case, if you don't want to face, or if you don't want to risk your towers being chipped down, you lane swap on the Morgana, despite it still being fairly good at farming in it. Rumble is extremely hard to dive with the door and shield. If you get to that Morgana early enough and you bait out a black shield, you can kill her in the lane swap. You have the Lulu Graves as well that can fast push the wave very easily, get the tower down and then swap back down to the lane. We're really going to have to see a lot of things up in the air. It's funny with Kalista, because she's still so new, especially here in Europe. Only Freeze and Pinoy plays her. A lot of different opinions about how strong she is in the laning phase, and it's a lot about, again, abusing this level 2 power spike according to Crepo, where if you talk to someone like Freeze, he doesn't really like her in the laning phase. I want to see how Elements want to position on the map. If they get 2-2 again with the Graves, and if Pinoy doesn't feel too confident in that matchup, then they can try and pull him out as well. But there's so many things up in the air here, and really, we have Anivia in the mid lane. Yeah,
if I didn't know any better, I'd say you were excited, Deficio. Now, let us know if you think Gambit's going to pull off an upset win against these Elements by tweeting us at LOL Esports with the hashtag GMB win or EL win. We're going to check on those results, but right now, it's all about this matchup. Gambit and Elements onto the Rift.
I can't believe Froggen has gone back to Anivia now.
I'm excited. Have you heard about the word?
I have heard about it indeed. And Eddie is being dragged out of his base. Gambit is just gonna go straight actually out in this spread in the river. Try and spot every entrance. See if Elements is moving in for some deep wards at level 1. Try and gather the information we so often see. Wicked again. He actually likes to start boots. He did it on Gnar. He's done it on Rumble again, so he doesn't get any combat stats in a lane. Just get a bit extra mobility, and we've seen it twice now. Jumbok did it too, and it's not really been paying off. Because again, you don't really gain anything from it in terms of your level 1.
Yeah, he was doing that on the Kennen, and this is, I feel like it's a little different situation, but maybe he's anticipating being dove down.
But that's the problem. If you're anticipated being dived in a lane swap, you go door and shield. So you're a lot more tanky.
That's a fair point.
In the early game, and again, the boots doesn't really offer you anything other than that extra mobility. So I want to see what he's building towards. I mean, remember, against SK Gaming, Wicked went straight into a death cap. And he said it was because they had Abyssal Scepter and he ran Magic Penetration runes. So he didn't feel like he needed more Magic Penetration. Because again, Froggen and Lissandra had the Abyssal Scepter. I still disagree on that one. Death cap is way too expensive. You don't gain enough if you have fairly poor AP ratios on a Rumble. And getting it as a first item, then you don't really utilize the passive. So I really don't want to see that as a first item here from Wicked.
Yeah, I'll see if he mixes it up this time. Definitely didn't work out quite so well for him in that last. Edward hanging out in the brush, but he doesn't have the help of Pinoy, who's actually a little bit more preoccupied with the Gromp.
So it is Gambit in this game here swapping the Kalista and the Thresh away from this Lulu Graves lane, getting the freeze going for Eddie. And again now, there's boots on Wicked, so remember, he's weaker early on here. Meaning Gambit wants to actually spot his starting items, might opt to go for a dive. For now, they're going to set up a freeze, which is what you normally would see against a Rumble. Because again, he's so risky to dive, we've seen it go wrong many, many times. But this freeze itself, barely did anything for Gambit.
Don't think so.
No, that's actually going to push back down towards Elements. They didn't manage to get the freeze completely going in the lane. I think Eddie actually last hit 2 minions with his Relic Shield. And I remember Crepo back doing Worlds on the analyst desk saying, as a support, if you're setting up a freeze, never last it with your Relic Shield, because you need those minions to be there for as long as possible to deal the right amount of damage. And it's actually meant that this lane now is going to push towards Wicked very slowly. And he can go up here after getting level 2 in the jungle and start picking up some farm. Gambit setting up to go and dive in yet. Cabochard obviously doing the exact same down in his lane as level 2. Farming away. A bigger freeze though being set up. Sorry, actually again, no freeze either from Elements. So both teams have to push up the waves.
Yeah, it's going to accelerate things just a bit for the top laners respectively being able to get some farm back. Now, Diamond is making a move with Eddie here. Throws the trap down. And he actually decides, instead of trying to push the wave, he's going to be eyeballing the counter jungle for a minute.
And remember here, Morgana is fairly squishy. She doesn't have Black Shield yet, so Elements can actually build up this wave and go and dive her if they want to. But for now, Duna Skulker now moving down to it. There's 2 wards placed by Gambit already. So Cabochard knows, and he's backing away. This is enough for Elements. You don't even need that kill. You just need to force the top laner away so he loses all the experience on the minions under the tower here. Froggen
eats a charm. Flash Frost going to connect on the edge of the minions, yeah. Nick takes a bit of damage off the back of that. Diamond Pinoy and Eddie are trying to make a push of their own as they're continually denying even the Gromps, or the Krugs, excuse me, from Cabo Shard. Shook's going to be able to take those away.
Yeah, just putting all the focus on zoning away this Morgana here, denying everything from Cabo Shard. He's still only level 2 for himself, while Gambit then can trade tower for tower. So they, in the end, they trade. Wicked has been sharing XP, so he's not too far ahead either. And they're just going to get 2 turrets down early, 1 for each team.
4 in the bottom, 3 in the top. Gambit taking slightly slower route to finishing off this turret. Should be able to get it all the same as Wicked is going to move up there. He's been a little bit starved to farm as well. 4 CS apiece for those top laners.
Yeah. So basically just sacrifice the top laners here, giving all the farm to the AD carries. Pinoy obviously actually been 2-2 with Eddie, so he's not been getting solo XP. And meanwhile in this mid lane, Froggen, as we know him when he plays Anivia, if there's anyone who doesn't know anything about Froggen, who just started watching the European LCS, then he is the Anivia god. It is his best champion if you look at the history of Froggen back in Season 2 days when he was again playing with CLG EU. It was all about that Anivia in the mid lane, and he has so many small tricks he likes to use when he plays it. He will always send out, if he knows his Q is going to connect, he's going to have his E flying in the air just behind it as well. So he gets that instant burst here. He's not going to wait for you to react at all here. And he's really, really, really skilled on this champion. But it's been a while since we've seen it actually.
Indeed it has. Froggen keeping up on the farm. Nick has been pushed back just a little bit. Shook getting a few counter jungle wards of his own while Pinoy continues to push Wicked back in this top side. Pinoy in this Kalista, he had a pretty good game on it yesterday. And with Eddie on the Thresh, in the bottom lane, Reckless is going to take a little bit of damage from the Tormented Soil and the Q.
So Gambit actually decided to stay in the top lane with Pinoy and Eddie here to keep pushing it down because Wicked wasn't there in the lane. He has no proper wave there to stop it, and there was no help at all. So they're actually going to be able to get a lot of damage on this turret, while Cabo Shard and this Morgana has to pull to keep the wave in the middle here and very far away from his own turret. So just been using that little wave clear advantage by having Morgana into the Rumble to actually push down and get 40% damage on this top lane turret, and now they can swap around. Cutlass completed for Pinoy. He did the same yesterday, and this simply because he prefers Blade of the Ruined King in nearly every setup on Kalista. It's not even about what he's playing against. He just really prefers to get Blade as the first item, that into Hurricane. It's the style he likes the most, and we see different styles often in LPL, and when Freeze plays it, we see the BT into a Hurricane, but obviously whatever
We've seen Hurricane first too. Yeah,
Hurricane first as well. I mean, it's all about still getting that attack speed. It's going to make him very mobile and a bit stronger in terms of one-on-ones. If he's chasing on for these kills, you have to slow from the Blade, and obviously, again, you have to slow from your Rend.
Oh!
Reckless?
Truly blind. Reckless is going to back out of that one. Nif coming down as well as Shook, clearing out the ward in the river. Eddie's not going to be able to defend that one.
So funny enough, the last time we saw Froggen play Anivia, let's go back to him. We can actually wait because Shook is showing himself in the bottom lane. Yep, Pinoy. Now he's showing himself in the river.
Lantern to safety. Edward's got his back.
Yeah, but the last time we saw Froggen play Anivia was in the summer split last year. It was actually against Gambit in week 4, and Elements lost the game, and we never saw Anivia again in the 2014 season. And now he's pulling it back out against Gambit. And obviously remember, back in DreamHack 2012, it's a very famous CLG EU game against Moscow 5. Then Anivia as well making the comeback together with Preppo.
Somebody's making a comeback here. Pinoy finds the Ren, but Reckless going in. Collateral damage dodging around. Will this be first blood? It will, and Reckless picks it up, but he pays the price as Eddie slaps him down after the fact. A pair of 80 carries in the bot lane.
So trading 1-for-1 in the bottom lane here. Kills actually goes in favor of Elements because Reckless managed to pick it up and the other one went to Eddie. But the fight itself, the Rend was used fairly early for Pinoy, and he didn't actually get a reset on it, so it was on cooldown, and that's why he couldn't finish off Reckless despite getting quite a lot of stacks on him. So just used it a little bit too early on Nif, and therefore losing the trade. Otherwise, he would have been able to get 1 kill for himself.
A slight misplays, overestimation. How much mana you've got there as Froggen picks himself up the blue buff, heads right back to lane to deal with Nick.
Yeah, he's been having an easy time in the lane, free farming into the Ahri. No real pick potential for Nick. Element setting up for the first dragon. There's teleport ready for both the top lanes, but Diamond is fine with they're actually timing the move up here. And when Nick was going to go back and take it and saying, okay, we know your jungle is now going to be in the top side of the map. We can just run straight down, take a fairly easy dragon. There was even the pink ward here in the small tri-bush, or in the small bush, so they could even see if Gambit came in and just disengage, worst case.
Smooth, controlled movement, just how Elements likes it. Froggen able to control the waves so well with that Glacial Storm. Now Reckless making a move up into the mid to cover while Froggen backs. Or maybe just keep going.
Well, what we have to say still is it's not a truly aggressive comp from Elements in many ways. It's going to be all about Shook landing the engage and then these mid-game fights where you have all the burst damage from Anivia, from Rumble, from Graves, but they have to pull that off.
Cabochard could be in trouble here. They're going to throw the Equalizer down. Burns through the Black Shield quite well. Soul Shackles are going to connect on Wicked, but Nif is here, should have enough damage, and Reckless just blows him up. Well, Nif distracts.
Very standard Gambit though. You sit and you push your lane and you just keep pushing up to the enemy turret. It doesn't even matter if you have any wards in the enemy jungle or not. You keep pushing, and as we have seen so many times before, teams just walk straight up, get a free kill for themselves. Cabochard ends up dying here, and Elements pushing down with both Reckless and Nifty. Remember, they have this fast push. Come between them, can clear the waves very, very easily.
Uh-oh.
Eddie's setting up for some free.
Oh, yes, he is. He gets the hook on Nif. They go in forward, but Reckless flaying him backwards. Wicked is here, teleporting back. They find Eddie. And Reckless comes up with another one. 3-1 on the game.
Yeah, Gambit not respecting the teleport coming in from Wicked either to quickly turn it around, and Shook,
he's not done yet. He doesn't really care about the tower damage, although he might want to respect the Nidalee Spears. Goodbye. Diamond finds an answer, and Froggen in the mid lane eating a charm or deception on the backside of that.
Just saw the Nidalee damage in action, even though Diamond has been able to do too much in this game. Picks up his first kill, and again, Froggen thinks he will always do this. So whenever he pushes in the wave to the tower, he's gonna walk down to the bushes down here in the mid lane and just hide around the corner where you can't see him. He's in the shadows, and then he just throws out the Q, and you can't really react in time because you see it so late, and then you just get some burst damage on you.
Yeah, the Q coming out. Elements fan vote coming out in force here. So we see Eddie taking over a little bit in the mid, helping Nick out. But Froggen's definitely starting to look a little bit scary. Pretty close to that Rod of Ages completion, and he should have it reasonably early.
You can see how Gambit has tried to set up 2 wards around this mid lane as well to try and see if Froggen is standing just around the wall. Froggen cleared the one, but there's one still down towards the bottom side, which was actually pinged out. So they know he's setting up for these small tricks, and Wicked this time around going for the Haunting Guys as his first item on Rumble.
I think he learned his lesson.
Well, you won't get an early Abyssal Scepter either, because Froggen is going for Rod of Ages here on the Anivia. So yeah, definitely the right choice. And Reckless staying in this lane, just trying to push down another tower. Cabochard has been farming fairly well despite being completely zoned away in the lane swap. Just slightly ahead of Wicked. But he can only wave play. He's not really able to offer anything else against Reckless and Nif here.
And with Shook waiting in the brush as well, it's going to be dangerous to try and force something onto Nif and Reckless, despite the fact that Eddie's waiting in the wings. Diamond's backing off of this one. A little bit more damage onto the tower. Not a whole lot. Buckshot not going to connect as well. And they defend yet again.
Yeah, Elements right now is just waiting for these key first items to be picked up. Infinity Edge for Reckless. Rod of Ages is now completed for Froggen. You want to get your Sorcerer's Boots for Wicked as well. And then you can start looking for these mid-game fights here. And that's basically why they keep laning, we can say, and keeps pushing down these turrets and just sit back and farm. And Gambit is allowing them to do it, or basically saying we don't really have an answer right now. So Reckless and Elements can now go back, pick up these key first items, be ready for this dragon coming in about 2 minutes, which should belong to them.
There's your red damage right there. No, it clears away the red buff. Yeah, dragon in a minute and a half. Elements, after polishing off the top tower, they've got themselves a bit of a gold lead. Yeah, here comes Froggen.
Just staying out of it, but didn't really get to see it.
He takes the charm, throws down the wall, but Nick is able to run quite around it.
He sits there every single time. He will place a pink ward in the bush, and he just waits for you. And it's really, really effective. Nick, so far, has just been farming in the lane. Scepter is completed for him against the double AP, and also when you have double AP on your own side, this buffs your own damage. Yeah,
technically it's triple AP,
AP in this case.
To go in the full. And yeah, that Abyssal Scepter is going to be so useful towards the end of this game.
But Gambit is really running a very, very squishy comp. So if they end up getting into the wrong fight with elements and get locked down by the Cataclysm, and then with all this AoE damage coming in...
Very nice work by Diamond.
But with all that AoE damage of elements, if Gambit ever goes in a straight 5-on-5, they're going to lose. I mean, they're going to get blown up completely. It's going to be such a problem for them. They're going to have to really try and create picks with Nidalee, Morgana, and Ahri together. And then obviously this Blade completed for the Kalista. So very pick focus from Gambit, and wombo combo AoE, you're all going to die in a matter of seconds from elements.
I feel like when it does come to a head, this action is going to be like a powder keg exploding. Elements waiting for the pick. Gambit trying to make a pick. 25 seconds available on the next Drake. Rekkles moving up to the middle, push the minion wave back. But Eddie is there. He's got to be careful not to check too close. And he's going to show himself.
Trying again to land that hook. Because if you land the binding, you follow up with Eddie's hook, or the other way around. So you can really lock down a target. And then with all this single target burst you get from the Kalista and from the Nidalee together. It is scary, but as long as Alliance keep up the wards, which they normally always do, they're very focused on their vision. They used it against SK as well. Then they shouldn't be picked off, and they can decide to fight, wait for Shook to engage, while growth them, lock down these targets, and then just rain hell on them.
Well, they're going to poke the dragon in the eye, but Pinoy is going to be there, try and push them away. He's not got as much backup as he might like. Spear's going to come in, not quite enough range.
Damage you get this one up, yeah. They can try and steal maybe with
Diamond,
the spear, but that's
yeah,
it.
He's been able to snipe a blue buff. He's going to go, and he gets it!
God.
He gets the lantern. How about it? Diamond procs with the spear snipe.
And notice the timing. The spear was in the air, and then he actually jumped the wall, and he smite as well, so you have way more damage than Shook can do on his own, and that's why he could actually take it. Lantern out. 1-1 in terms of dragons. That was a beautiful steal.
Yeah, gets them their first dragon of the game. Very, very nicely played. And now Gambit still fairly even with elements here, looking to set up a pick over by the Gromp. Rekkles, will he wander too close? They throw him in. Eddie comes in first. They bring in Pinoy. Do they have the damage? The Spear's not going to connect. Teleport, however, is coming in. Pinoy going to get very low in this one. He's going to flash away, and Rekkles actually lives as Wicked is able to clean up Pinoy and Eddie.
And again, mistake from Pinoy. He actually went in for this fight here. He used his rend really, really early when there basically wasn't enough damage on Rekkles, and in the end he couldn't finish him off. There was cooldown on the rend for now. He stays alive. 2 kills with Wicked coming in. So let's see it. So they take Eddie with the ulti from Pinoy, throws in. This is smart. And then you see Eddie actually manage to flay the flash from Rekkles, keep him in place. He still has dash ready. But notice Pinoy here. Let's see when he uses the rend. He gets 2 spears on him, 3 there. Then he actually rends extremely early, so now he no longer has the damage needed to take down Rekkles, and ends up dying himself with Wicked also coming in.
Yeah. Didn't quite calculate how much damage they had. It looked like it was going to start off nice, but Elements still had the upper hand in that situation.
Yeah, keep in mind when you're building Blade first item, you don't get the same amount of AD you would if you go for BT, so you need more stacks before you get in the same amount of damage. And clearly here for Pinoy, twice now where he actually could have picked up kills, but just got to use that rend a little bit too early. And in the end, Rekkles, 4 kills for him now on this Graves.
You know, Wicked's starting to get a little bit of a ramp up of his own. He did get that 1 kill, the 1 assist. Has the Leandri's Torment completed. A little bit of extra burn. Elements are starting to move in, set up some ward control, as well as the Crab over by the Drake pit.
Yeah, you can really see how Elements are spreading their wards around the entire map because they know Gambit is splitting up into every lane and again trying to look for these skirmish fights and these picks, where Gambit is more focused on just like one area, saying, okay, don't want to go into towards this Baron here, don't want to risk Elements when it spawns at some point to get full control of it. Obviously not spawned yet in this game here, but so far, individual mistakes from Gambit being punished. Again, Pinoy now going towards that Hurricane. I should probably correct myself from before. Yes, you do go BT, but you typically receive BF Sword first, then Hurricane, then BT in that order. But still, will give more damage and a few rend stacks, where Pinoy needs to stack more before he gets the same amount.
Do complete the Hurricane Kalista quite quickly. Still 0-2-1 right now. It's not his best performance so far. But he has been a little over-aggressive that one play. I mean, it wasn't a bad idea at all. They just didn't execute it right. I was loving the way he threw in Eddie and then the Lantern. They just kind of tag-teamed in and immediate gap close. And that could be a problem for Elements going forward into this game.
It is the second time, though, where we see Gambit don't respect the teleport coming in. So they go for this dive, knowing there's a high chance of Wicked is porting in right behind them. And they would have no support then. So even if they had killed Reckless, Wicked would most likely have been able to clean them up. But for now, Gambit spreading out and going straight into this mid lane as soon as Elements actually walk away from it and take a turn.
Oh, they've caught Froggen! And he's going to get big for just a moment. Tower is down. Pinoy is stunned. He is getting chunked out. And Wicked is able to blow him away. Pinoy now 0-3.
0-3. He's going to stun it in. Should also be a tower now for Elements. No, teleport coming in from Copper Shot.
He's going to try to
providing
save the
some
day.
wave clear.
Yep, they'll have a little bit. Eddie's going to throw the hook into the minion. It's not quite enough to save this, and I'm not sure if he wasn't going to be able to do much more than throw down the Tormented Soil. That teleport seems a bit overzealous.
Yeah, not the best teleport coming from Copper Shot. He's also changing his build. Yesterday he went for this full Nuke Morgana, Death Cap, Void Staff Outlast, no cooldown reduction. Today, he's gone for the full support Morgana style where you get max cooldown reduction on your first 2 items, combined with your 5% from the masteries. And then you actually now put a lot more focus on Nick and Pinoy being the 2 carries. But because again Gambit is running with so many squishy members and no real tank, honestly it might be the right call from here. Just you need that black shield as often as possible to prevent some of all this, the stuns coming down from Froggen in this case, and obviously again to try and make sure either Pinoy or Nick can stay alive, because you will have a lot of damage with all these 4 guys, with the AP in Italy as well. But it requires you to stay alive first, which is going to be the big problem for Gambit.
Yeah, most definitely. Elements here are able to control the Dragon area quite well. However, they're now moving further up river, and Gambit not too keen to check in to this Elements squad. Diamond's going to find that ward on the backside of the Dragon Pit. Nice little gold in his pocket.
Gambit won't be able to fight for this dragon again. Elements has already set up ward control. Froggen is just going to sit in this small bush in the river. And if you walk in this choke point, he's just going to wall right behind you, and whoever is stuck on the wrong side is going to die. So basically, Gambit is going to have to try and steal it again. And I believe this time around, Elements is going to put down a sweeper before it dies, so Gambit doesn't have vision of the HP. But, for now, it ends up actually just being Reckless and Shook starting it. The rest of Gambit is not even close.
They've certainly got some damage between them. So they started up. Bring Nif along, why not? Ward gets placed down. Gambit trying to control a little bit of their own, and they're not going to be able to do it. A little bit of an insurance policy. Froggen throws down the wall just to prevent any cheeky steal attempts.
And really always been the big thing about Anivia. Her objective control is fantastic. As long as she can get in first, set up these pink wards here, then you can never walk in to the dragon area, because the wall is just going to destroy your team, separate them, you just pick off targets one by one. And obviously as well, when it comes to sieging a tower, you can do the exact same with the wall. If a person is stuck between the tower and his own terrain next to it, place the wall in between, and suddenly he's now caught out as well. So Elements has a lot of options here in how they want to deal with this Gambit team. As long as they don't allow Gambit to get these random picks through the bindings, the charms, and whatever single target CC we have on their side.
Gambit's still trying to set up traps, both in the sense that they're hanging out in the brush, and of course the niddly ones that Nif is clearing away quite well. Nobody from Elements really hanging out where they could be easily caught there. Pinoy going to grab himself a couple of Krugs, so he's got to get back to safety. Hurricane now completed, so he's got quite a lot of that attack speed. Gets out safely.
And Elements just brute forcing their way into the jungle of Gambit, knowing there's no objectives on the map. It's all about the towers now. You have Wicked sitting ready with teleport, and you just start warding off the jungle. And oh, Eddie's going in.
Didn't quite connect on the hook. They got the spear from Diamond. That's going to be the sign for Elements to back away. See if they can find another opening. Miniwave coming back again.
Yeah, Elements, oh sorry, Gambit. You want to get that Outlast completed, and you want to get that Locket for Eddie before you really want to look for the fights. You need some of those defensive stats against all of this burst damage here.
Now we're looking at
the
ooh,
straight away.
They catch Eddie. Froggen's going to be able to get the stun off, but Nif will take a spear. No answer back. Wicked, meanwhile, He's going to be pushing in this mid, going to draw the attention of Cabochard. So the bottom lane will continue to be a 4v3 now with Diamond Prox moving up. Kind of moving between the lanes, really.
Yeah, so Wicked actually started a...
Oh, they get the charm on Froggen. That's going to force the wild growth. Reckless will back the rest of Gambit away. And once again, they don't like it. They back off. Gambit in hot pursuit. But they won't be able to catch.
No. No real way for Gambit to really get in there and catch elements. While they have a lot of mobility, it's all based around either getting auto attacks off from Pinoy or having ulti ready for Nick. Otherwise, they can't really chase onto targets. And there's no real hard engage either for Gambit, so they're basically relying on landing these skill shots to start the fights. We saw Eddie trying to flash in, missed for him. And really, Elements been in a good position in this game. Hitting kills, got the 2 dragons as well.
And that wave clear that Froggen is bringing on this Anivia is going to make it hard for Gambit to try and surprise shove any lanes. The waves have been well controlled by the rest of Elements. And Gambit, yeah, they're reduced to trying to get picks here. Now, they're not so far behind Elements right now, but they aren't quite getting anything for their troubles. They're just forced to move around, push waves back, and try to hope that Elements wanders blind into the jungle.
Exactly. They don't really have any split pushing options coming in. I mean, the Morgana split push is not the most scary thing in the world. So they can push out the waves and then again regroup as a team and try and land this one very important skill shot. But you also have to remember Nif is going to be there with his ulti to kind of deny you that one-shot potential on whoever you catch. So Gambit has a comp which has very little tools to actually deal with elements, and that's why we see also Gambit trailing behind. Is that a Rod of Ages on a jungle in Italy? Came in very late. It's going to take quite a while to stack up, so Diamond is expecting to go for a very long game here.
That is the trend of Gambit's games so far, however, and Elements.
Oh, Elements. They have a ward in this Baron, so they see it. They're moving there. They're going to stop Gambit here. They're going for it at least. Should be able to, yeah. There's quite a lot of damage being dealt to the Baron. Have to remember the Ren stack,
very,
though.
Very quick. Teleport's coming in, yeah. They've got to back off this one.
Alright, so Elements had actually placed a ward. Gambit tried it. That was actually a good play, because Elements was trying to set up on the bottom lane. They hadn't pushed in any of the waves yet. So Gambit was trying to sneak a free Baron, but had already... Oh, there was already a ward placed by Elements to stop it. So teleport was forced by Wicked, or from Wicked. So a small victory there for Gambit.
And they're able to get Elements to move where they want them to, even if they can't grab the Baron themselves. Dragon's going to be on the table in just another minute. Shook eats a spear around the side, but they're back to it. Cabochard! Froggen is able to pick up that kill, and they're not done yet, but Reckless, he's a little bit low. Wild growth on him as he throws out the collateral damage. Gambit scatter back.
Cabochard, did he flash in and just... die instantly?
I think he did. I think he was going for the soul shackles, but he just got popped before the hourglass could be used.
Instantly. You have that point and click Whimsy as well from Nif to kind of stop him from actually going into hourglass at any given time. You need just a little bit of time on Morgana to pop the ulti first, then hourglass, and that opens up for Elements to stun him, or in this case turn him into a cupcake, I guess it is, and then kill him.
Let's take a look at how that one happened.
Yeah, let's see. So he's trying to flash over the wall. There's a ward already placed. Actually, he's not. He flashes in. No flash.
Black shield. Flashes.
There we go.
There we go. Oh, immediately cupcake. Yeah. No chance to do what he wanted to do. And just gets popped. Reckless, they almost get Reckless for a moment, but again, this is the power of that Lulu support. Is that you have so many tools, so many utility tools in particular, to stop big plays like that from happening.
Yeah, and once we're going to have Mikhail's completed for Nif, then it becomes even harder to find that one pick through the skill shots. And also, again, Reckless can go for Banshee, so QSS, then suddenly he's not a target either, and you have to aim towards Froggen or Wicked in these fights.
Speaking of Reckless, solos the Dragon. Slays it down. That is the third one of the game for Elements. They will have that movement speed buff available to them. Froggen flaps his wings just a little bit harder. Dodges most of the skill shots. Spear's still going to hit him in the face, though.
And right now, notice the side lanes from Elements. The bottom lane is going to push in for them, and top lane as well is actually going to push for Gambit. That's why they're pinging it and going to go up there to push it out before they decide to do anything. They don't really want to just go down 5 versus 5 under the turret. We're still a little bit too early in the game to do that. Don't really want to go for any risky dives. So that's why they're putting all the focus on the side lane minion waves first. Trying to again spread out Gambit and then have an opening, because as soon as Gambit moves away, if they just send, let's say, Diamond down to the bottom lane and they're standing 4 guys at the tower, then you can expect a wall coming in from the Nivea and try and land that one stun, get your pick, and then you get the tower as well.
Next trying to cover his pink ward, but Elements too strong, controlling the vision in this jungle for the time being. Nick on this Ahri. He's not done terrible, but he hasn't really been able to find the picks he needed, and now he's in a little bit of trouble. Black Shield is on as he Spirit Rushes out of the Cataclysm. An ult for an ult.
This has just been a very standard Nick game where we don't really see too much coming. He doesn't really die, but hasn't been able to offer anything either. He's not the only member though.
Oh, Shook's hot, caught. Nearly gets, again, there's the charm. Maybe Nick can find something there, but the wild growth will keep him alive. Pinoy gonna flash it up, Eddie. No, they're not gonna quite go in on that one. They cut Froggen, but they have to back off. Elements damage, just too much.
Did get the flash from Pinoy.
Oh, Diamond.
Diamond, yeah. He
goes a little ham.
His spears. Remember, he's gone for a fairly slow AP build, where he needs that Rod of Ages to stack up, and he got it very late in the game, seeing as he is a jungler. So not really that strong at this point. Really looking.
The spears are not quite as painful as we've seen from these jungle Nidalees.
And that really is also why we don't see Rod of Ages on Nidalee, because you have to go for this flat AP in terms of the mid game, otherwise it takes you too long to kind of scale up and you will fall behind compared to what a normal AP solo lane Nidalee would be able to do. And that's why he's not really able to offer too much damage in the game here, except for obviously the base damage we do often see.
Well, he does just max out his rod stacks, but yeah, a little bit late in the game because he had to pick that up, of course, second item. A very curious choice, but Diamond's always doing something a little bit different than everybody else.
Yeah, it does give him some extra HP, which is very needed against all the burst from Elements.
Teleport now on the Baron. Gambit, they're trying to force something here. Elements are wise to it, but they don't quite know exactly where Gambit is. Nif is gonna have that revealed to him and walk it out.
Gambit trying to do what they can with their comp here. Set up a trap.
They burn the TP though.
Create a pick, yeah.
For effectively nothing.
True, but again they were hoping for Elements to walk into the Baron and then get binded or charmed and actually winning a fight, and then you go straight for Baron after, because remember when you have that Kalista, you can go for fairly aggressive ones, and with all the Ren stacks. So they're simply just trying to do what they can to bait out any objective and any kinds of face checking from Elements, but they're not buying it. Nif was very, very careful there before.
Still got enough wave clear here, so Element's going to try to muscle their way through, but they've caught Diamond for just a second. He backs out. Elements are playing very, very careful, as is what they typically do. Froggen eats the binding, but there is no follow-up from Gambit.
No follow-up, and all these wards being placed on the map from Elements towards this Baron, and right behind them, they can see everything that's going on.
Oh, Shook gets caught again. Do they have the damage to shut him down? He's going to flag drag his way to safety.
Trying to get the flank.
They're a little bit grouped up right now. Flash being burned. Here comes Nick and Froggen. They got the wild growth, but now they've caught Nif. Throw down the equalizer to try and cover the retreat, but they're not done. Combo Shard, the Dark Binding, gonna connect on Wicked. They are gonna find enough damage to at least pick off Nif. Wicked solo, Diamond gonna find him. Nick now in some trouble. It's a double kill going over to Diamond Prox, and he's not done yet.
They can go straight for Baron as well.
They're looking for even more. Oh, reckless. So close. Froggen nearly eats the spear. They should be able to find him, though. No, he's going to dodge the swipe. Hooked in now. Froggen, Nivea is served. And they find the kill. They should find the Baron. Elements lose 4 for none.
And that was just a perfect fight for Gambit here. That came from all the flanks around. Here we saw even Diamond. He was kiting around behind Elements, and they got the hook first onto Shook, then onto Nif. Let's see it again. First hook from Eddie. Notice how we have Nick from one side, and behind Elements we have the Nidalee coming in as well, just kiting around. Diamond is being such a pain in the butt here. Keep dancing. Nobody can lock him down. Ulti comes in onto the 3 guys from Gambit. They all stay alive. Cabochard tries to flash ulti. Doesn't actually get anything with it, but they've bought enough time, and Elements has been removed or moved away from their AoE wombo combo here, and suddenly Gambit can clean up the kills, get the Baron as well, we would assume, once we actually get out of the replay.
Yeah, and from there it was pretty much just cleanup duty, so they're able to grab quite a lot off that. They took the time about it, took the safe route, and they are able to even up the game. Got themselves 1,000 gold ahead now after the fact, too.
Now.
Yeah, and they're controlling the map.
And Elements actually had a lot of wards on the flank to try and see what was happening and if Gambit were trying to come around them here, but yet, or still, Shook getting hooked first, forcing Elements into a fight when they weren't in the right position, also in the middle of the lane, couldn't really get into a choke point, and Gambit just came from every direction, completely split up. Perfect way to play against this wombo combo from Elements.
The dancing Nidalee of Diamond Procs really coming up big there. He grabs himself a double kill, 3-0, and he's now got a Void Staff completed as well. So those spears are going to start hurting just a little bit more. Yeah. Speaking of, Reckless got the shield on, so I guess it's okay for now, but he's taking more.
Taking more.
It's a good thing he's got that lifesteal.
So yeah, again, Diamond is almost sort of like a semi-tank on this Nidalee here. It's not the spears that's going to destroy Elements, but again, if Diamond can actually stay alive and do exactly what he did in that last fight, where he was just jumping around behind them first, forced them to chase him, they couldn't catch him.
If you want to play catch the Nidalee, you're going to have a bad time.
Also slightly explain his build there again with the Rod of Ages.
Yeah, look at these towers falling so fast. They've just got the damage output. Pinoy with that attack speed is just starting to come up pretty big. Element's not reacting quick enough.
Keep in mind you got that 60% attack speed from the Nidalee onto your AD carry as well. You can take down towers very, very fast.
And take down
great turnaround by Gambit. Really fantastic team fight.
The question is here, how can they keep this one up? Because Gambit's games have traditionally gone extremely long this split, and they've just had struggles closing even when they have a very strong early or mid game. But right now they have a solid amount of damage on their side. They're playing well together. Something would have to give here for them to give up this lead.
Well, if they do allow Elements to actually group as a team in a, let's say in a choke point around the jungle where Gambit can get the flank, then yes, they can still lose the lead and lose the team fight. But if they can force Elements to fight out in the open, like we saw before here, or at least start the fight in the open and then dodge around these ultis, then Gambit has a very real chance. Remember, there are 4 damage dealers on the team. 2 of them has built either slight tanky or slight supportive for Cabochard with the cooldown reduction, but they still have a lot of damage to offer.
Well, not to mention, Edward's still been grabbing those hooks left and right. He has really been a proponent in setting up these picks for Gambit. And now they're moving all over the map, not giving Elements really a chance to breathe. Wave pushing in the middle, they'll send Froggen to deal with it. Should be able to mop that up quite well, but Gambit already starting to eyeball this last outer, or inner turret, I should say.
It's already very low. Remember they had that push.
Ooh, Charm, damage on Wicked, seriously, they got the hook. Oh my goodness, they just don't have the follow-up yet, but they're making him think twice.
Oh, engage on the Cabochard.
Okay, Cabochard, he goes Zanya's, and they throw down the equalizer. He's going to go to safety, still fine. Shook gonna take the damage. The Anivia wall is there. Reckless narrowly takes another hook. Cabochard's gonna get out alive again, though.
And Diamond, he just stops the recalls here. Force Elements to run back to their fountain. Again, but they're not done. Staying around, you have to sustain from a Nidalee for the life.
Teleport on Cabochard, too.
Exactly.
They don't want to let up on this one. You can only throw so many Anivia walls, too. They're not going to be stopped after a while.
Oh, another spear connecting. Elements might look to fight. Shook is back here. So is Wicked.
Diamond's around the other side as well. Cabochard pops the Soul Shackles for nothing. They get Froggen hooked up on a line. The box is down. Fate's call Pinoy. They're going to flash away as he takes the stun from Froggen. Again, Elements have defended, but for how long? Reckless just out of Dark Binding range, but he's fighting for Krugs. Cabochard now being chased down. Has to flash himself out of danger.
Gambit, though, again, going
Eddie.
straight to the middle, and Eddie trying to set up a pick on Reckless.
Oh, should have flayed.
Yeah.
Oh, and here comes Shook, though, like clockwork. They're looking for Pinoy, but he should be able to dodge it back.
Cataclysm is not exactly the best against the Kalista. Just jumping right out of it for Pinoy here.
Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, some minions are pushing for Elements. But they're going to be dealt with in the form of Cabochard as Nif takes a charm. Not quite enough. Damage the spear. Oh, that's close.
I love how Gambit is just running around the enemy jungle and just like one-on-one 2v2. They just keep looking for these picks here. very, very hard to play against for Elements.
I think they're just having a good time at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
Gambit, yeah, they've got themselves about 4,000 gold in the lead. Dragon is going to be a minute and a half away. And even though the game is starting to end a little, or go a little bit longer, Gambit are looking pretty good this time around.
Yeah, for now here. We're going to wait for these next two big objectives. Dragon and Baron about a minute away. Gambit, yeah, or Diamond, sorry. Went for this Guardian Angel. So we are going to see this somewhat tanky Nidalee, which we talked about so many times already. I'm interested in this too because, I mean, who else do you have that can really tank for your team? You've got Eddie. He's not particularly tanky yet. And I think this is actually, even though it's not optimal in terms of damage, he hasn't really needed to be like a massive nuke. He's just been getting in Element's face, annoying them, harassing them with spears over and over and over. That's the thing. I mean, it is so hard to explain how Diamond is playing the Nidalee and how he's building it compared to so many other players. Because again, it's not about the damage, it's about just being annoying and being in the face, dancing around Elements over and over.
And the rest of Gambit has actually done pretty well. Also, I want to give Nick some props for stepping up a little bit on this Ahri.
Yeah, again, managed to get a few kills. At least one for himself in the end. If Elements want to make this push, they really have to ward the flanks completely so they can see Gambit moving in. They have two wards here on the side, so they could actually spot Diamond. Now going in, setting up around the Baron. Remember, if Gambit gets in a situation where they have to face check towards an Anivia, they're going to get walled and killed. So they want to fight out in the open, not around a small Baron pit or the river around it here with all these small bushes that Elements can hide in.
Elements are trying to push the vision away. Dragon Baron both respawning about the same time. And Gambit are pushing up the middle. Reckless is looking to try and do a little bit of a secret mission, take the Baron or take the Dragon himself. He did it quite well last time, but this is going to get spotted out by Diamond Frost.
Oh, he might be caught out here.
He could be in some trouble. He's cupcaked. And he has to wait a moment while his jump is reset, but there's no follow-up. Shook is isolated from his team right now, and that's the smite. They're going to throw a spear. Diamond comes in and gets the Nidalee assassination. Yeah. They will trade it for the Dragon as Wicked pops his Zhonya's. Not sure why.
For Shook, though, whenever he goes in, there's so many targets that can just jump right out of his ulti.
Oh, did Diamond just steal that?
He got the same one again, but Dragon did go to Elements. They have 4 Dragons now. But they have to worry about this Baron. Remember the Kalista and the Ren stacks. Gambit going straight forward. 30 seconds still on Shook.
Elements have to react to this, but what can they do other than try to force the fight? Nick's a little bit low. They've got the serious damage out on this Baron. Pinoy dancing back and forward as they try desperately to finish this one off. Oh, a brilliant equalizer to force them back with the Anivia while Edward is isolated. He takes so much damage from this team. Fate's Call pulls him back to safety. The Baron goes down. Diamond was able to grab it. They've caught Nif. They blow him up, and somehow out of all that, Gambit managed to get the Baron, they get Nif, and Elements get nothing.
And they're going to push straight towards the top lane. You have a lot of minions already, no waves for Elements to push the mid lane. So, tower now again for Gambit.
Slow to react, they're backing away. But is it a little bit too late? They've got these Baron up minions. This tower is looking pretty juicy. And Pinoy, he may be 1, 3, and 4, but man, can he wreck some objectives. They're gonna take down inhibitor number 1, 42.5 minutes. Minions on the bottom side pushing against Gambit, but they should be able to answer that right away. Do they want to go in for the fight? Froggen, he's got nowhere to go. They've got the egg. Can they find the kill? They pull it in and serve it up again on a plate.
10 seconds on Nip here. They're still going. They have the Baron buff. They have minions coming as well from the top side. They have so much damage. They can take down these turrets if they stay. Want to play it safe though. And they back away.
They do lose the tower on bottom, but you gotta think that is just so worth it. There's a minute left before Froggen respawns. The death timers are getting unforgiven. There may be a Dragon advantage for Elements, but that doesn't mean much when you're able to make plays like that.
Just Shook going in and then basically being isolated from his own team. Ends up dying. Diamond still showed he had some damage on this Nidalee.
You know, Shook, they'd had some problems with communication. We saw in that game against SK.
Yeah, you really don't want to jump on Diamond. Again, he has a Guardian Angel as well. Not the right call by Elements. Ends up actually costing the Baron. 2 inhibitors gone. Very easy call now for Gambit to go towards the bottom side. Push that one up. Look for this last team fight and wait for these super minions to force someone back from Elements to defend it. And then you just go straight for the tower meanwhile, because we know the attack speed buff from Diamond onto Pinoy should almost cap him out at 2.5 attack speed. And then he can just wreck a tower.
Man, Diamond's been able to do quite a good job mopping up these kills. 5-0-1 on a tanky AP Nidalee. This is the kind of item build I would expect on like a Kassadin or something, but he's making it work for him. He's got the double buffs. He's got the Guardian Angel, although he could be in a little bit of trouble right now. Okay, Diamond, come on, don't get too hypey here.
It's fine, he can heal it up again. Capuchat pushing into mid lane. Again, we need those super minions in the base to force elements away. Otherwise, there's still a lot of wave clear on their side with their Nivea.
Yeah, Cabochard's going to start pushing in the middle. They have to answer this. There are super minions. Ooh, Froggen flaps away from the hook. Eddie has just been ridiculous. True Fresh Prince form this game. And he's had a little bit of help from Pinoy as well, so he's been all over the map. This tower still being fired down. Froggen throws down his ultimate to try and clear away the minions, that Glacial Storm. But Gambit is right back at it. Yeah, they can't clear it. There's no way to safely check into that. This tower, I feel like they're going to get it sooner or later. Froggen eats the charm. Nick's got the damage, not quite enough. One more shot would be all it needs to take down the tower, but they've been pushed back for now. Eddie a little bit low. They catch Reckless with a Dark Binding, and he's able to Quicksilver Sash that one and get away.
This tower is so low. Pinoy should be able to get it there. Yeah, inhibitor as well. 3 inhibitors gone.
They have to deal with the super minions on the top side. They're starting to wreck through the Nexus turrets. That's going to be an easy inhibitor number 3. 45.5 minutes in. Gambit are on the cusp of pushing in elements who have no room to breathe in this game. And Gambit, if you get a win here, this has got to feel so good.
Yeah,
after the way they started this split, to be able to take out a team with the reputation of elements has got to be so huge. And Reckless, they're going to get the charm off on him, even though the wild growth is forced, still taken very low. They're pushing in on multiple fronts here. Nick going forward, they caught Nif. He's going to go down. Nick picks up his second kill of the game. Froggen tries to move away from Cabochard's Soul Shackles as a Nexus turret. One goes down. Diamond gets his GA pop. Pinoy covering his escape. Elements just don't seem to have an answer here right now, Deficio.
They're still fighting for it.
Yep,
Shook is going in.
He's going in right now. Here we go. They're going to go for it. Froggen caught. He's gone. They had no passive. This is going to be it. Gambit Gaming, 46.5 minutes in, destroy Elements and pick up win number 3. Smiles all around on this Gambit squad. They have just done what at the start of the split seemed the impossible. They take down Elements and they come up with their 3rd win and move themselves a little bit closer up the standings.
And it was looking so good for Elements here. They secured the objectives, they ran as a team. Gambit couldn't team fight them at all. They had the ward control as well from Elements, and then we had that one fight here where they pushed down towards the mid lane. There are 2 holes to the side of them, to the flank, where there's no wards, and that's where Nick comes from one of them, and obviously Diamond came in from the other one behind Elements. And we had this insane team fight where they just kite around one by one from Gambit, secure 4 kills, a Barret, and suddenly they're back in the game. Just like when Elements played SK Gaming, it was one team fight that really decided it, so they fell behind, they lost control of the map, they could no longer set up these 5 versus 5s they wanted to, and Gambit could take the win.
And over on the side of Elements, a heartbreaking loss for them as they now slip down to 4-4 in the standings. And who would have guessed that?
Yeah.
To looking so good on paper. They just haven't been able to execute. This was another long game, hasn't been as long as some of the ones we've seen Gambit featured in. But man, they were able to close that time around just magnificently there. And all off the back of mistakes. Again, Shook got isolated. Again, Diamond Prox just massive. He made late game Nidalee work.
He did.
That's impressive.
I mean, the way he played the Nidalee was so different from what we normally see. AP Nidalee players will sit with their team and just try and poke, and see if you can single out maybe like one target and then burst them with the takedown. Diamond, though, again, coming from the sides, bought time for the rest of his team, and then you were just going to land the charm or the binding or the hook, one of those 3 spells, and you could set up the rest and really get the kill. So just waiting for them, and they kept spreading out Elements, removing this whole AoE wombo combo, and I mean, fantastic play by Gambit in the end. Really fantastic.
Absolutely. Now for an on-site look at that huge Gambit victory, let's go ahead and check in with Quickshot, who's on stage with the Master Thief himself.
Thank you very much, guys. Deficio, you're talking about Diamond, and I've got Diamond here with me. Congratulations on the win. That's now 3 in a row after you guys started 0-5, how did you guys win this game? What went right for you and your team?
I guess they should have looked what other teams banned against us, and it was Nidalee. And after they leave me Nidalee, I'm so happy about that that I just can't lose.
Well, it's definitely the case. This is probably your best game all year long. Why is it you're performing so much better on Nidalee and not the other champions you're playing as well?
So you are saying that I'm performing poorly on anyone else? Right?
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. You've lost 5 games in a row. Why would you argue? Why would you say different?
Okay, I agree. I lost 5 games in a row only on my own. So I guess like the champions which I'm playing is mostly like I enjoy playing is Lee Sin, Nidalee, and a little bit of Rek'Sai. So that's my like the best champions I got. I'm not sure why I'm playing a little bit poor lately on others, like on the Jarvan, etc. But I'm trying my best. And as far as we get the new good internet and we actually got our shit together, started to practice all the day long, we started to win. So,
well, that's definitely fair. 3 games in a row. Diamond, you've been playing for Gambit, previously Moscow 5, for a long time, and you've seen teammates come and go. A few weeks ago, we actually heard you saying it's a new team, you know, players underperform. How are you feeling with the new team, with Pinoy coming in, you know, with Cabochard in the top lane? What's it like playing with these new guys, considering how your year has gone?
I'm feeling really good playing with all our new members. I enjoy like even spending my time with all of them, and I respect them all. So we're trying our best to be a good team and to actually participate in the World Finals this year. That's my only goal, actually.
So only goal is World Finals. You guys now 3 games in a row. We spoke to your coach Leviathan earlier. He said the team has a motto. It's a process. What is it like working with a coach in a gaming house? Because this is very different, very new for a team like Gambit.
It's actually very new for us to have an actual coach which is really working with us, talking about all our faults, talking about our responsibilities as a teammates to each other, to not talk shit between, and to stay calm all the time and to play better and better and better and don't flame each other. So it's kind of new experience, but I really like that, and I feel like we're becoming better players each day.
Yeah, and it's definitely showing. Every single game you play is getting better and better. Thank you very much for your time. Congratulations on the win. I'm looking forward to seeing more of your Nidalee in the future. For now, we're going to throw it over to the analyst desk to break down that game a little further.
Great stuff from Diamond. Quick shots fired as well. Great to hear from him after that victory. We got to break it down, though. Let's surpass the early game as it was such a long game and great things happening in the mid game. Starting off with Elements actually taking control and having that game plan in the mid game.
So yeah, I think Elements definitely came out ahead in the early to mid game, and basically Gambit's comp, as the casters were already saying in the game, they were looking for picks, but Elements was really not allowing that, and they stacked up some dragons, and basically they punished Gambit every time they overreached. Actually, I like to commend the Elements that they improved in some areas, such as Wicked's TPs. I think this game were a lot better than they were in the past, so they actually got ahead. I think we have a replay of that already, so we can get that up on your screen immediately and show what went wrong for Gambit and what went well here. This is a good idea, by the way. Slight misplay by Gambit here. In my opinion, they should have dropped the Lantern first and then used Kalista ulti because it works that way. But they picked up this champion this week. They're finally practicing, you know. They could have had Reckless here. Reckless did a good sidestep, outplay that. But what I want to take away from here is, yeah, plays, you know, hooks can miss and Lantern combo, you can let that from a champion. But Wicked definitely TP'd in here immediately, and he came to the rescue, and Alliance was playing as a team, or Elements rather, was playing as a team. But then they got ahead. And then how do you translate that advantage? With your composition, you cannot 4-1 split push as Elements, so you need to look to siege, right? And they kept sieging, and then this is where Gambit really impressed me. They managed to wave clear and keep Elements off their tower for incredible amounts of time, and this is where Elements faltered. In my opinion, they should have stepped back and started baiting Baron. They picked up the Orcus Lens. They should have warded and forced Gambit to face check, because if you have to face check into the Cataclysm, into the walls, the Anivia stunts, then the catch from Elements makes sense. Or Elements should have just pulled the trigger. Okay, we're on the tower. You guys are defending with mediocre wave clear. Okay, I'm going to Rumble ulti the left side, Anivia wall and ulti the right side. You guys can't even come close to that tower anymore. We're going to kill that tower and back off. Instead, they let Gambit flank them. Gambit was super resilient, and Edward, I've given him flack for his performance. This game he played really well. He landed so many hooks and he didn't commit on them, and that was the important part. They kept just launching these skill shots out, never committing, never throwing, and then it finally happened, and I think we have a replay for that as well.
We have a replay of the turning point in that game where Gambit got back in charge because Elements couldn't close the deal on that mid tower.
They just have to pull the trigger before the wave gets obliterated. But look here, NIQ or Nick at the side, Diamond on the top, you know, Pinoy and Edward chasing. They force Froggen's flash here. They get Nif, really good hook by Edward. This is what the fight means. They force Rumble ulti, but they back off. Diamond doesn't get caught, you know, he keeps kiting and spreading them out. One by one, Gambit is eating away at the sides of Elements here, but they're never overreaching that final crucial step where they got caught. Nick flashes the Froggen Q, you know, in the back, Diamond's cleaning up. Reckless tries to get him, but the Spellvam actually makes him survive a little bit. And then somehow Gambit stays alive, they get the Baron, and this is where my point is actually going to. It's the Baron was the crucial thing about this game. If Elements had a Baron buff, they had that extra resilience on the minions. There is no way in hell Gambit would have cleared those waves, you know. They finally pick up Froggen here, but both teams needed the Baron. You saw how hard it was for Gambit to siege into an Anivia as well. We've seen that in the past before. We've had that game, 25 minutes, sit in base, you know, Anivia wave clear. And this is why I really like the new Baron mechanic that Riot introduced. It makes breaking sieges a lot harder, and it allows you to siege with not siege-specific comps a lot better, and Gambit used that Baron to their advantage. They snowballed it, and Elements, they should have had that Baron earlier. They should have used it for the face check, and if they didn't, they should have just taken it, and they would have won the game that way. So Baron, very crucial, and impressed. Gambit, definitely compared to yesterday already, and compared to the weeks before, they got a lot better.
Yeah, and for me also that Pinoy was on Kalista. He wasn't able to do that much. He got behind, but then they got the objectives because of the power he deals to that. And with Diamond, who was able to steal so many objectives away, which is maybe a little luck keeping it in the game as well, but they capitalize on it, which is their merit.
So he had that one blue buff. That was a warded blue buff with his
First
spear.
dragon. Yeah.
Not really that lucky. Yeah, I understand. The beauty in the one dragon steal was he launches his spear, goes into cat form, hops over the wall, smites, they impact for like 1,000 damage. There is no way Shook could do that. What again, Elements is not reading the game properly. They need to pull that dragon out, block the spear, and then it's a 50-50 smite with 6 people or 5 people on Element side hitting it, and only Diamond having a chance to hit it at the same time. So definitely way better synergy coming out from Diamond, which is just outsmarting them. And yeah, impressive play. I think Elements really dropped the ball, but really good job for Gambit for catching it.
One last thing about Elements, this is an 0-2 week for them. When we were talking about the matchups they had beforehand, you said, I want to see some new things from them, some new picks. Here we see no new picks, and even going back to a new old pick, which is the Anivia for Froggen in the mid lane. What does that signal for you?
I don't think compositions matter as much as the way you play them. They could have won. They got ahead with the composition, and they just didn't recognize what their win conditions were, as a lot of people like to call them. I think they could have won that siege by burning through all their ultis and just investing the cooldowns to get the tower. Once the inhib was open, it was free, or just get the objective. But they just didn't play right, and then they got surprised, I think, by the sheer amount of mobility coming out from Ari and Italy in the flanks, and then really just almost line skill shots, you know, binding, hook, Nidalee spear, all coming out, and they have this really slow mobile comp that only works well as a group. Eventually somebody's going to get hit. Yeah. And I think that's where Gambit, the only thing that really surprised me is how the hell did Gambit wave clear with those champions so well without losing any like tier 3 towers, base towers. Yeah, you mentioned it. The fights were so long that even if Gambit didn't hit all their skill shots, because Elements didn't pull the trigger, they were going to hit a charm or a hook or a Morgana binding once in a while. But hey, Gambit, all props to them. Fantastic on closing that one out. We're about to take a break, so head over to lolesports.com and be sure to check out our interview with Imagine Dragons and Riot Games composer Christian Link, who talks about creative process involved in remixing the Dragons I Bet My Life. It's been fantastic already. Listen to it. There's also a special acoustic performance as well as behind the scenes. So look at our journey to last year's World. Fantastic piece. Definitely check that out. But for us, up next is the Copenhagen Wolves versus Fnatic. Let us know who you think will come out on top in our next game. Tweet at LL Esports with the hashtag CWWin or FNCWin, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Right now, it's all about this matchup. Gambit and Elements. Oh, yes, he is. He gets the hook on Nif. They go in forward, but Reckless flaying him backwards. Wicked is here, comes in first. They bring in Pinoy. Do they have the damage? The spear's not going to connect. Teleport, however, is coming in.
Can you finish them?
Got time. Got flash.
He's going this guy.
They're going on me. Clone me. I'm alive, I'm alive!
Is isolated, he takes so much damage from this team. Fate's Call pulls him back to safety. The Baron goes down. Diamond was able to grab it. They've got Nif. Gambit Gaming destroy Elements and pick up win number 3.